Chapter 44 The House Elf and the Skycar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Harry has never had such a bad birthday. His birthday was ruined by Dobby the house elf, and he was locked up. He even felt that he would never be able to return to Hogwarts in his life. Harry looked out through the gap in the iron plate of the window with some despair. Hedwig had lost some weight because of the bad food for several days, sickly there. Hedwig turned his head angrily. At this moment, the door that only opens twice a day is opened. Harry looked up to see John walking in. John! Harry exclaimed in surprise. John frowned when he walked in. The place was indeed too narrow, not much sunlight came in through the shuttered windows, and John greeted Harry. Harry, Hermione and the others said you won't reply, so I'll come and see you. Speaking of, John walked to Harry's bed and sat down. He said strangely, "Why are you locked up?" Harry got angry when he mentioned this matter. He said with full resentment, "A house elf broke in, he told me not to go to Hogwarts, and then made a mess. Uncle Vernon found out that magic is not allowed outside of school. God, you don't know how I've been here all this time." Harry found someone to confide in, and vomited bitterness to John. When John heard this, he suddenly felt strange. A house elf coming to trouble you? He was surprised. House elves generally wouldn't attack wizards, let alone come to other people's houses to wreak havoc. Could it be instigated by someone? John wondered if someone would deliberately frame Harry. Could it be Malfoy? When it came to who had this possibility, Harry preferred Malfoy. John was speechless. You really fell in love with each other. The possibility of it being Malfoy is not high. If it is Malfoy, he is probably already writing a letter to John to show off. Denied this possibility. If it wasn't instigated by others, then it might be that the house elf took the initiative more. John couldn't understand how a house elf could have a relationship with Harry. Only old and wealthy wizarding families have house elves. If you say it was a house elf of the Potter family, it's okay to say, you don't have to question the wealth of the Potter family. When John was reading, he had seen potions developed by the Potter family, and one of the shampoos was sold out. The problem is, Dobby doesn't listen to Harry either. House elves cannot disobey their master's orders. If it is a house elf of the Potter family, Harry's order will not be disobeyed. Both of them felt strange about this matter and frowned. Let's not talk about it now, John. Are you here to rescue me? Harry had hope in his eyes. He had just heard Uncle Vernon's screams like killing a pig, and he thought it had something to do with John. Thinking of John's ability to cut off the giant monster's head, he suddenly felt hopeful. John glanced at him. Remembering the letter Ron had sent to himself, he shook his head and said, "Unfortunately, it's a pity to save, but it's not me." "Who is that?" Harry was puzzled. John smiled mysteriously. He received a letter from Ron. Ron's father told Ron that Harry had received a warning letter from the Ministry of Magic, and that Harry hadn't responded to the letter for so long, so Ron was going to bring someone over to rescue Harry, and John thought that he would do it at night, so he said he didn't rescue him. After all, I can't really call gang thugs to kidnap the Dursleys. I am a good citizen who abides by the law, so my words are just to scare the Dursleys. Although John couldn't save himself, being able to chat here also warmed Harry's heart. The two talked about the vacation, and John said that he had gone abroad, which made Harry very envious. "Harry, you have to be careful. I feel that it may not be long before Voldemort will make a comeback." John said the name, and Harry's face froze. "I met a Death Eater in France. Although it was only one, it also means that his power has not completely disintegrated. You have to be careful. Maybe what the house elf said is not unreasonable." John doesn't remember the plot very clearly, and he doesn't remember what happened to Harry in the second grade. He remembers that the key clue is in a secret room in the bathroom. He warned Harry aloud, hoping that he would always be on his guard. "I know, John. I'm glad you came to see me. If only my luggage was here, I can review it." Harry also felt that he should work hard, but unfortunately his luggage was not here. But downstairs, John told him not to worry, and after bidding farewell to Harry and going downstairs, he looked at the reserved Fernan and said calmly, "Even if you put Harry in confinement, you should give him time to tidy up his things." Fey-gnome nodded hastily when he heard the words, "I'll move his things up right now." He was really afraid of this little wizard who was the same age as Harry. Even if he couldn't use magic outside, he could call gangs to make him sleepless. He just wanted to send the devil John away quickly. and he naturally agreed to everything else. Harry's luggage was carried up, and Harry didn't know how John made Uncle Vernon so obedient. Since he could make Uncle Phanon obedient, why didn't he just let him go? Unbeknownst to Harry, John had already walked out of the Dursleys' house. He looked at the Dursleys who watched him leave, and nodded slightly. To be honest, he didn't hate the Dursleys as much as he imagined. As a Muggle family, they are willing to raise Harry, a wizard, which is already very good. By night, John heard the roar of the car. He lived in the attic, and when he opened the window, he saw a turquoise car flying past in the air. The car drove up to the Dursleys' window, and John saw 3 red-haired heads inside. It didn't take much to figure out that this was the Weasley family. John touched his chin and said, "This car was transformed with Muggle cars and magic, great alchemy. This flying car should not be made by the Weasley twins, they don't have this level of alchemy yet." John remembered Ron saying that his dad, who was the head of the misuse of Muggle artifacts division at the Ministry of Magic, seemed the most likely person to have built the car. Interesting, Ron also invited me to his house, and when we find time to go there, maybe we can exchange alchemy. John watched the people in the car pull Harry up. Because of John's relationship, Harry's luggage was left in the room, and they left directly in the speeding car. When Vernon Dursley awoke the next day, he saw howling from the open window. He even suspected that John did it, and asked the gang to tear down the windows of his house overnight. This made him sleepless for days, and Dudley was grounded at home. Petunia was afraid that her precious son would be an offer she couldn't refuse. This made Dudley suffer so much that he didn't even have a chance to go out and bully other children, and none of this has anything to do with John. He was writing a letter to a man named Ben Abbott at this time, since John realized that it might be difficult for him to make a magic sword similar to Gryffindor's sword in a short time. He shifted his goal to enchanting. This Ben Abbott is a swordsmith, and John is ordering a great sword from him. The other party's reply also arrived a few days later, promising to help John make a sword. Of course, John will also pay the remuneration, and at the same time send the mithril and some would need it. Just need to wait 2 weeks, and he will get a brand new sword. The school's textbook list for the 2nd grade was sent. John picked it up and looked at it, then froze in place. Except for a standard curriculum of charms in the book list of Defense Against the Dark Arts, the other books don't seem to be textbooks, like Walking with Corpse Eaters, Holidays with Witches, Journey with Giants. These books look more like novels. John remembered that there seemed to be a few of these in the list of books Hermione sent him. He remembered that Hermione had said that the contents of these books were wonderful, and recommended John to read them. Could it be that Hermione can prophesy? After wondering for a while, John decided to put it down first. He set up another alchemy room in the basement, during which time he refined some things. Maybe we can find a time to sell it. Although my family can be said to be a middle-class family, it cannot withstand the huge expenses of alchemy. John decided to be self-reliant, and it would be best if he could find a partner to make and sell what the other party sold. This person must be professional. After all, what John is holding is not a prank prop like the Weasley twins, but a real magic item with lethal power. John thought for a while, but there were no such professionals around him. Maybe head to Diagon Alley to find it. Chapter 45 Knockturn Alley and the Thief. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Good morning, Kick. Reaching out to pick up the cat rubbing against his feet, John was satisfied with Fluffy. The cat called Kick meowed, and 3 more cats ran out. They gathered around John's feet, and John also took out the canned cat food he had brought. Tom wagged his tail in dissatisfaction and circled around. He promised to take himself for a walk, but ended up feeding the cat here. An old lady was walking slowly with a cane. John saw her and greeted her. "Mrs. Fig, good morning." Arabella Fig smiled when she saw John. No one knew that this ordinary-looking old lady was actually a member of the Order of the Phoenix. She was a squib, and Dumbledore asked her to watch over Harry. 6 months ago, there was one more person on Mrs. Fig's care list. It was John Wick in front of him. Dumbledore came to the door himself. He wanted to know the student. Mrs. Fig had a good impression of John, because the boy always came to take care of his cat. He likes Fluffy as much as Dumbledore likes sweets, and because of this, Dumbledore made up his mind to make John the temporary holder of the Philosopher's Stone. John didn't know that he might have to thank the old lady in front of him, and he rubbed the 4 kittens separately. It's better to be a cat outside, it won't suddenly become an older cat girl. After John satisfied his fur control, He was about to leave when he realized that someone seemed to be watching him. Spy on me? His first thought was Death Eaters, but that was quickly overruled. The Death Eater he met last time was because the other party was looking for Nicole Flamel, but this time he didn't think the other party would come all the way to spy on him. He is not the savior Harry Potter, and has absolutely no monitoring value for Death Eaters. After he got up, he looked as usual. Tom stopped to circle, and after John said goodbye to Mrs. Fig, he took Tom for a jog. Gone? After leaving Privet Drive, John found that the sense of surveillance was gone. He had some doubts in his heart, and when he continued his morning run the next day, that sight appeared again. This time John saw it for real. It was a guy who wrapped his whole body like a skin disease. After jogging out of Privet Drive, that person did not follow. Could it be spying on Harry? Considering that Harry had already left, John thought it was still impossible. Confused, John dropped something out of his pocket while running on the third day. Seeing the thing shining in the sun, the person wrapped all over his body suddenly had golden eyes. He immediately trotted over and picked up the things. It was a gold galleon, and now he smiled. Good luck never fails. Putting Jean Gallen away, he didn't chase him out to monitor John. At night, John walked out of the house under the disillusionment spell. In his hand was a piece of parchment, but not the Marauder's map. There is only a simple arrow on this piece of parchment, and as John moves, the arrow on the paper changes constantly. Finally John walked into a house. The house was poor and simple, with nothing in it. Only a fireplace and a tent that had been erected. John came to the fireplace, which was connected to the Floo network. Let me guess, head to Diagon Alley. Grabbing a handful of Floo powder, John called out the name of Diagon Alley. A green fire swallowed him, and the next second he appeared in another fireplace. With some chimney ashes on his nose, John wiped the black ash off and found himself in a shop in Diagon Alley. If you can't find that guy, you can go shopping. With a thought in mind, John reapplied a disillusionment spell and walked out. The people in Diagon Alley became rare at night, and he held the positioning map he made in his hand. Going all the way along the map arrow, he found that there were fewer people, and the people around are wearing cloaks to cover their bodies, and some people are trading there. With a mysterious appearance, it is probably not something legal. Knockturn Alley. Before he knew it, John came to Knockturn Alley. This place is just next door to Diagon Alley, but it's a very different place. Here is a lot of illegal transactions, and the person monitoring John is dealing with someone. You are too greedy. Do you know how much effort I spent to make it? The man had changed into a cloak and was yelling at the boss in a shop. The boss glanced at him, and said with a mocking tone, how much effort? This thing is a small-looking glass, Mundungus Fletcher. The quality of things you stole is getting lower and lower. The man known as Mundungus Fletcher, who had been watching John, slammed the door and left in a huff, but he still didn't dare to get angry and rob the Lobo Jeanbach antique shop. I had no choice but to leave here by myself. Mundungus, who was walking outside, was going to go to the Leaky Cauldron to relieve his worries and see if there were any stupid Kaisi who could make him a fortune. Unlucky day, Dumbledore asked me to pay more attention to that kid, so that I didn't have time to steal things. Forget about Harry Potter, why should this kid be? Mundungus complained in a low voice, if there is time for monitoring, it is better to let yourself earn more money. Before he could carry out his plan, he felt his wand against his lower back as he passed a section of Knockturn Alley. Don't move. If you want a hole in your stomach, just pretend I didn't say so. Mundungus' legs trembled in fright, and he said in a trembling voice, calm down, I still have a few galleons with me, you can take them. He cursed in his heart that he was unlucky, that he was blackmailed by others. He wanted to take the opportunity to use the wand to escape, but before he could touch the wand was pulled from his waist. Physical disarm. It was completely over now, and Mundungus didn't dare to move. John led him into the corner of the path, and threatened in a low voice, it seems that you are not honest. Mundungus sneered, no, absolutely not, I'm just a little too scared. Hee hee. John didn't believe his words at all, and he deliberately lowered his voice, which made Mundungus unclear about John's identity. At this time, John also knew who asked him to come and monitor him, but he didn't expect it to be Dumbledore. He thought about it, it should be to protect himself. John had encountered Death Eaters in France, and perhaps because of this, he asked the person who watched and protected Harry to take care of it. John's own guess was actually a good guess. John is not what he used to be. He is the inheritor of Nicole Flamel's intellectual legacy, not to mention the future. Just those Nicole Flamel's experimental manuscripts are enough to drive some malicious people crazy. Now that he knew he wasn't a Death Eater, John had no intention of dealing with him, but he had an idea, and it occurred to him that he might be able to use this person to start a business in Knockturn Alley. Just when Mundungus felt that he might be dead on the street today, John said, "Do you want to make some money, Mundungus Fletcher?" Make money? Mundungus didn't expect that someone would pay for the robbery. He couldn't understand what the other party meant, but he knew that if he didn't agree, it would probably be miserable. "I have a few props that I need you to help me deal with. After they are sold, the account will be split." Although not all of John's props are lethal, some of them were made when he was studying black magic. Diagon Alley will not buy this kind of thing, it can only be sold in Knockturn Alley. You just need to answer whether you are willing or not, and I won't force you. Even though John said so, the wand pierced Mundungus back with pain. He nodded hastily, wishing to nod his head off. John smiled, and he took out a few dangerous props from the small bag he carried with him. "In 3 days, I need to see the Golden Garin." After leaving these words, John removed the wand from Mundungus' waist. Relieved, Mundungus hastily picked up his disarmed wand. He looked at those few props. A golden light suddenly appeared in his eyes, and even the fear just now disappeared. "It's such a delicate thing, that old guy Bujin will definitely be interested." He looked around and hurriedly put the things in his arms carefully, and all of this was seen by John. He did not leave, but watched Mundungus turn his head and return to the Bogenbach antique shop. When he came out again, he already had many galleons in his hand. After hesitating for a while, he divided Garin into two, thinking that maybe he could hide a little of the other. It's just that as soon as he had this thought, he felt the familiar tingling pain in his waist again. He was so scared that he hurriedly put down the money. % of the money that was put down was taken out, and John's voice sounded, "As I said, % of the bill. If you want to continue, use this thing to contact me." John threw out a piece of parchment, and Mundungus picked it up after hesitating for a while. He stood there for a long time, not daring to move, and only after he was sure that John had left did he express his gratitude for the rest of his life. Looking at the Jean Gelong who made more money than himself by stealing things, he fell into deep thought. Chapter 46 The Shop and Johnny. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 2 weeks later, John received a courier from the United States, and the long courier was tightly wrapped in a wooden box. He couldn't wait to take out the crowbar and open the box. With 6 nails removed, the wooden box was opened. It was filled with hay as a cushion, and a knight's sword decorated with mithril appeared inside. The body of the sword is mirror-like, and the semicircular handguard is made of mithril and steel powder by pouring method. The material of the hilt is oak, and the tail is made of mithril to make a round head, leaving a circular gap on it. This is made using the 3-piece method. The sword body is straight and hard, and it is not easy to break. The more John looked at it, the more he couldn't put it down, and he immediately started waving it. The center of gravity of the sword body is at the 2 fingers, and the swing is silky and smooth. It can be held with both hands or swung with one hand. John specially asked him to keep the tail long so that he can play the characteristics of a big sword. After finishing the set, John stopped heartily. It's a pity it wasn't at Hogwarts, otherwise he would have gone to the training ground to try it out. There is a gap in the mithril above, just right for enchanting. John immediately prepared to enchant it first. He fixed the sword body, and carved each word on the mithril gauntlet with a carving knife. Through his beating one by one, he finally successfully enchanted a flame spell based on runes on it. Fehu represents the animal as the ox, which symbolizes the harvest and is also a wildfire. Take out the wand and enchant it. The moment he successfully enchanted it, John clearly felt that the sword had changed. He inspired the runes on it to use the flame spell, and the text lit up with red light, and the blade was instantly ignited, turning into a flaming sword. The sword of iron and fire. I feel more like a witch hunter. If he puts on a set of Viking armor, John thinks he can go guest starring as a witch hunter. Putting away the flame, John put the sword away and stuffed it into the small bag. Although this small handbag looks a bit like a woman's style, John doesn't pick any ready-made props. Choose a name, let's call it Iron Wick Sword. In this way, the sword of Iron Wick was born. John went to the living room to answer the letter, and when he returned he resumed communication with his friends. Hermione asked him to go to Diagon Alley tomorrow to buy books for this semester. There were some ink spots in her handwriting that were accidentally left by excessive force. What's the big deal tomorrow? John recalled it carefully. There will be no major events tomorrow. Why is Hermione so excited? Coincidentally, Harry and Ron will also go there tomorrow. The three little ones are worthy of being the protagonist group, and they do everything with such a tacit understanding. After replying one by one, John wrote another letter to Hagrid. He hoped that Hagrid could help him find materials for magical creatures. After finishing everything, he switched the pen from his left hand to his right hand, wrote a letter to Mundungus in a completely different handwriting, and put together several props he made. Mundungus is doing well except for being greedy. All the magic props that John practiced and refined during this period were sold by Mundungus. In addition to always complaining about his hard work and wanting to increase the commission, Mundungus declared that he was selling things made by a master alchemist. This doubled the sales of his stuff and doubled John's assets. The small treasury has accumulated more than galleons of wealth through selling props during this period of time. It's not as rich as Harry's. I don't know how many generations, but he can be regarded as a little rich man. But with so much money saved, John burns it fast. Soon Hagrid replied, and through the list of materials sent by John, Hagrid gave an approximate price. After John saw the price, he couldn't help taking a breath. 1,200 galleons, alchemy really costs money. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Half of the money John had just saved up would be wiped out in no time. He envied Hagrid very much at this time, and the Forbidden Forest was simply a treasure mountain. The price Hagrid gave was still the lowest one. There were some materials that Hagrid had, but he didn't think John needed to buy them, so he wiped them off. If it all depends on buying, it is estimated that most of John's funds will have to be thrown into it. Go to Gringotts to withdraw money tomorrow, and buy the book by the way. Burn money. John's mind is full of Garin now, leaving out the cost of alchemy. The money he can earn is just that. After telling his parents that he was going to London, Watson happily opened the safe and prepared to buy some weird things to come back. When John saw that his father was going to exchange money with those goblins in Gringotts, he immediately stopped this behavior. Under Watson's dull gaze, he took out a handful of galleons and clanged them on the table. Other children go to school for money, you go to school to make money. Watson's eyes glowed golden. As expected of his own son, he can support his family in reverse at a young age. John smiled slightly. Look for me to change it, and I'll give you a cheaper price. The implication is still to spend money. Watson's smile froze. This brother just settles the score. Why are you doing the same with your old man? John knew that if Dad didn't set a threshold or something, the guy would probably go to Diagon Alley and buy a lot of crap. In order to prevent Mrs. Wick's blood pressure from soaring, Johnny squeezed Watson's small coffers. Originally, John used family public funds to go to school, but now such a change has directly become Watson's private matter, so he can only take out his own small coffers with tears in his eyes. The next day, the family of three drove to the Leaky Cauldron. Compared to the previous visit, this time it was not so smelly, probably because Quirrell was not here. John came to the back door of the Leaky Cauldron with ease. After entering Diagon Alley, John was going to go to Gringotts to deposit the money first. After leaving the money needed to buy materials and teaching materials, the rest is deposited into Gringotts. This put a smile on the goblin's ugly face. Although these guys are greedy and selfish, they have to admit that Gringotts' anti-theft system is still doing a good job. After passing a burglar waterfall, John sneaked some water. The water can wash away the magic on his body, and he is going to take it back to study whether it can be reproduced. Leaving Gringotts, John meets Malfoy. Malfoy followed a man with the same pale, pointed face who looked like a grown-up Malfoy, and John guessed it might be Malfoy's father. The direction the two of them were walking was Knockturn Alley. My father had already got Garin and was about to squander it, and even Mrs. Wick was taken away. John happened to be going to Knockturn Alley, and after casting the disillusionment charm on himself, he followed Malfoy and his son. Along the way, John heard Malfoy babbling about Harry incessantly. This made his father, Lucius Malfoy, a little impatient. You've told me at least 10 times. Mr. Malfoy glanced at his son and stopped him from continuing. Little comrade Malfoy really loves Harry deeply. Seeing this, John was filled with emotion, and following the two of them, John came to the Bogenbach antique shop where Mundungus once went. Without going inside, John changed direction and walked to a house not far away. Mundungus has been living a pretty good life recently. Apart from monitoring the children, he doesn't need to go out and steal now, he just needs to wait for the Daily Mail. For this reason, he changed the tattered suit and put on a more decent decoration. God, I look like a businessman now. Constantly smearing in front of the mirror, Mundungus found out of the corner of his eye that the door of his house had been opened. He was startled, pulled out his wand and said sharply, "Who is there? Come out." "Mundungus, you dare to wave your wand at me now?" The deep and hoarse voice made Mundungus feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He hurriedly dropped his wand, clasped his hands together and said humbly, "Your Excellency Johnny, I didn't mean to offend, I just thought it was a thief." Humph. Johnny Silverhand, this is John's identity in front of Mundungus. He never showed his true face to others, so he found a seat and sat down. He glanced around and said, "This is the shop you bought, and it seems to have cost you a lot of money." "No, Mr. Johnny, you don't know, the best place to get 500 galleons is here." Mundungus felt a little wronged. He really didn't lie to John this time, it took him a lot of effort to get this place. Although it was a bit small, the location was very good. "Well, you'd better decorate this place quickly, Mundungus, doing business is more fulfilling than stealing." John was just knocking on Mundungus. He knew that he couldn't make a lot of money by retailing alone, so he asked Mundungus to buy a store and prepare to open a Silverhand Johnny store. Mundungus had already gotten used to the days when he didn't have to hide, so he was naturally reluctant to lose such a good life. Immediately promised that "I will fix this place." After speaking, he waited for John's next instruction, but there was no movement. This Mr. Johnny Silverhand is good at everything, but he likes to leave without saying hello. 47. Adults and Children. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mundungus started to decorate, and he felt that maybe after working under the silver-handed Lord Johnny, he could become a person similar to Bogenbach Antique Store. John didn't really leave until he saw that he didn't say anything rude. After walking out of the shop, John started walking towards Diagon Alley. He saw the Malfoy father and son coming out of Borgenborg, and it seemed that what they had in their hands had been sold. When John was about to leave, he saw a familiar figure coming out of Bogenbach. Harry. John was taken aback. Why Harry was in Knockturn Alley? Harry, who had just arrived in Knockturn Alley, was quite frightened. He saw shrunken human heads being sold in the shop opposite Bogenbach, and a big cage was covered with big spiders in black. 2 ragged wizards were whispering to Harry, and Harry found it creepy. He ran out along the road, his glasses fell and he kept writing them along the way. The wizard here is interested in this little guy who broke into Knockturn Alley. John followed him, and he had already seen a wizard approaching Harry secretly. An old witch grabbed Harry's hand, showing her mossy teeth and grinning creepily. "You're not lost, are you, dear?" Harry backed away slowly, the old witch's icy face holding a plate of what looked like dead man's nails in the other hand. He was terribly frightened, and his heart was pounding, and the old witch drew near to him. "I'm fine, thank you, I just want to leave." Harry resisted the approach of the old witch. John walked out upon seeing this, when the old witch was aggressive and even wanted to share the dead nails in her hands with Harry. "Harry, what are you doing here?" The sudden voice startled the old witch, and when she turned around, she saw the handsome John, and she immediately showed a sinister smile, but John narrowed his eyes dangerously. The moment the old witch turned around, his left hand brought out a whip shadow like a poisonous snake and smashed the opponent's plate. The old witch screamed and was about to attack when she saw her wand aimed at her eyeballs. "Go away, or I will make you blind." John's cold voice sounded, and the old witch felt a chill down her back. At this moment, a tall figure in the crowd came to this side. "Harry, John. What are you doing here?" Hagrid came over and saw the old witch, and immediately cursed, "Go away, you shameless thing." Stretching out his hand to pull Harry away, Hagrid forcefully led them away. The old witch didn't dare to stop her. She was threatened by John. Walking out of Knockturn Alley, Harry saw the familiar white marble of Gringotts. Hagrid led the two into Diagon Alley and helped Harry clean up the soot on his body. Knowing that Harry got lost, Hagrid could only say that Harry was too careless. "John, why are you there?" Hagrid was surprised that John was also in Knockturn Alley. John would naturally not say that he was doing business. He smiled and said, "I'll go see if there are any interesting alchemy materials." "That's too risky, you just need to tell me." Hagrid complained. He also came here to get materials for John, but he also bought some medicine to get rid of flesh-eating slugs. It was also because of this that he delayed a bit. If John hadn't appeared, he couldn't even imagine what would happen to Harry after being taken away by the old witch. "Thank you, John, you saved me again." Harry thanked John sincerely. John shrugged, and he was just passing by. "John, you don't know, I'm living at the Weasleys' house now, it's fantastic." Mentioning this incident, Harry remembered that he and Weasley were separated, so he was anxious to find the Weasleys. "Harry, why didn't you write me back?" "Sorry Hagrid, something happened to me." Hagrid started talking about the things that Harry didn't write back to him again, and Harry told him about being locked up by Dursley. An angry Hagrid growled to teach Dursley a lesson. "Harry! Harry! Come here!" Hermione happened to be standing on the Gringotts steps as they passed Gringotts. She ran down to meet them, her brown shaggy hair flying behind her. "What's the matter with your glasses, John? You're here too, and Hagrid, it's great to see you again." Hermione grinned, showing her big teeth. She had just come out of Gringotts. "Have you been to Gringotts?" "I'll go as soon as I find the Weasleys." Harry was sent to Knockturn Alley with no chance of entering. Hagrid was tall and could see far away, and he saw the Weasleys rushing through the crowded street all at once. "Harry, we hope you've only missed one furnace door." Mr. Weasley gasped. He had red hair like all the Weasleys, except that he was a little bald, wore glasses, and was tall and thin. "Molly's going crazy, she'll be here in a minute, and this is, oh, I remember, John Wick." Seeing that John was there, Ron wondered where Harry had gone. Hagrid said with a straight face, "Knockturn Alley." "That's great!" exclaimed the Weasley twins. Ron was also very envious, because his family never let children go to Knockturn Alley. "It's not great at all. If it weren't for John, Harry might have been taken away." Hagrid was still bitter about the old witch just now. This piqued the curiosity of the Weasley twins even more, and they pestered Harry to tell him a story of heroism. "Harry, oh dear, I'm glad you're all right." Mrs. Weasley arrived out of breath. She took out a coat brush from her bag and cleaned Harry in all directions. Mr. Weasley took John's glasses and restored them with a flick of his wand. The youngest daughter in the family is surrounding Harry, sweeping the dust for Harry with her mother. "I have to go, see you at Hogwarts." Hagrid was overwhelmed by Molly's enthusiasm, and he had to leave as soon as possible. "Oh, John, thank you very much, you are a very good friend." Knowing that it was John who showed up to help Harry in time, Molly became more fond of this good-looking child. Even Ginny came over to say thank you. John touched his nose and even said that he just happened to meet, but soon Molly seemed to treat John as her own child, and her enthusiastic attitude made John a little bit hard. "Ahem, I've already entered Gringotts, I'll wait for you outside." Seeing that they were going in, John hurriedly found an excuse to get out. After waiting at the gate of Gringotts for a while, John saw Mr. Weasley and Hermione's father come out with their arms around each other. They will meet at Slytherin bookstore in an hour, and now Molly will take Ginny to buy clothes first. The four strolled along winding cobbled streets. "John, have you gone abroad? It's really enviable." When Ron heard that John was going to France, he also wanted to go there. "Where have you been in France?" "Paris." Hermione knew John had mentioned it in the letter, but didn't say where. John thought for a while and said, "Paris has also gone. There is a drunkard who sells door keys in the hideout. He gave me a broken door key and I was chased by a fire dragon." "Ha, John, you are so funny." Ron laughed heartily, thinking that John was teasing them. Even Harry and Hermione think John has a great sense of humor, but it's true, John was helpless. No one believed what he told the truth. The four of them visited a lot of places in Diagon Alley, and arrived at Slytherin bookstore an hour later. The place was already full of people, and huge banners were pulled up on the upstairs windows. "Gilderoy Lockhart. I seem to remember seeing that name." Harry thought the name was familiar. Hermione cheered and said happily, "We can see him face to face. I mean, almost all the books on the list are written by him." John felt a little numb at the sight of the long, crowded line, and he saw Draco Malfoy. the three little ones were dispersed by the team, and John came to the second floor with his extraordinary physique. Looking at Malfoy's gritted teeth, Harry was taking pictures with Lockhart. "No way, are you still envious of this?" John leaned over, speechless on his face. Malfoy was startled and nearly fell, but John survived by grabbing him. "Look at that Harry Potter, his tail is almost up to the sky." Malfoy was very dissatisfied with Harry's publicity, but he didn't know that Harry only felt that he was dead. Chapter 48 The Hospital and Neville. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing his jealous look, John shrugged and prepared to buy books first. It's just that when he found all the books, he saw Mr. Weasley and Mr. Malfoy fighting. The Weasley twins next to them cheered loudly, and if it wasn't for Malfoy who couldn't beat the big family, they probably would have rushed forward. "What's all this called?" John watched Mr. Malfoy's eyes go black when Mr. Weasley grabbed a copy of Toadstools. Hagrid came over to separate the two entangled people, and Mr. Malfoy uttered harsh words, "Throw the book into Ginny's cauldron. They are quite measured and know that they can't use magic." It seems that the two of them fought very hard, but in fact, neither of them used magic. John knew that these two people were afraid of being troubled by the Ministry of Magic. After all, using magic was not the same as ordinary fighting. "My God, is there a fight here?" Watson exclaimed, and then he remembered that his son seemed to want to buy books. When she came over, she saw a mess of books, and Mrs. Wick looked for her son worriedly. John saw that Mr. Weasley was being taught by Molly like a son, and his things were all bought, so he said goodbye to Harry and the others. When saying goodbye, John saw an old book similar to a diary in Ginny's cauldron. After thinking about it, the Weasley family seemed to use old books, so he didn't think much about it. The family is Muggles, and John can't flew away. The family still visited London for a day before going back. After returning home, John started to fiddle with the materials, and the materials that Hagrid bought for him were also delivered by mail in the next few days. These are wonderfully written. John closed the book by Gilderoy Lockhart, which had a wonderful story, especially some of them have some hidden magic principles. John read them all. Could it be that this defense against the dark arts professor is capable? Judging from Lockhart's wonderful story, this person's rich experience may be a very good teacher. It makes me look forward to it. Putting the book on the table, John took out a piece of dragon tooth powder. This thing is a dragon's tooth with a slight poison on it. He mixed dragon tooth powder with other things to make a viscous liquid, and spread it on Ironwick's sword. Ironwick's sword turned black after being evenly applied, and turned into a mirror after a while. Use dragon teeth to coat him with a demon-breaking effect, but I don't know what the actual effect will be. John strengthened the sword of Ironwick to destroy magic, so that even if it encounters magical creatures, it can cause damage to its scales. Stretching out his hand to touch the blade, it was sharp but tough. Put away the sword. Basil brought him a lot of letters. Some are exchange letters he sent to various alchemists, and some are letters from rune experts. These are the results of his continuous efforts during the vacation. He wrote to various experts to ask questions and solve them, even the pharmaceutical experts. The reason for this is because he was accumulating contacts in advance. In the wizarding world, the support of seniors is also indispensable. Nicole Flamel also told him that he needs to better communicate with other people instead of working behind closed doors. It has to be said that John's Hogwarts student status brought him a lot of convenience. Many of these experts are students from Hogwarts. They are also willing to help others when it comes to helping students at their alma mater. Dear John, I am very moved by the improvement of Wolfsbane potion you proposed, and I hope to meet with you, Dharma Alex Belby. Where is Wolf's poison potion? You can go and have a look. Dharma Alex Belby is developing the Wolfsbane potion. He is a student from Hogwarts. John was interested in his Wolfsbane potion when he was looking for it. He remembered that the Wolfsbane potion could make a werewolf become a werewolf and stay sane. Holding the idea that werewolves are also poor people, John sent some of his thoughts over. Unexpectedly, there was such a big response. Dharma Alex Belby wanted to meet himself in person, and the location is at St. Mungo's Magic Injury Hospital. John thought for a while that it would be okay to meet up, just to expand his network. Putting the letter down, he picked up the last one. After opening it, the expression on his face became sad. The Lemmays passed away. They didn't let John pass. They wanted John to remember them as they were alive rather than after death. John is very sad that such a good teacher passed away like this. There was no funeral or grand ceremony, only the witness of a friend, Dumbledore, St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Injuries and Injuries. John came here, it's not in Diagon Alley, but in a red brick department store in London called Tau Tau Limited. Enter the hospital. John explains his visit to a dummy in a department store window, then walking inside, he entered the second floor, where there was an unlucky wizard who was bitten by a werewolf, and beside the wizard, a thin man was recording the pain the man was going through at the moment. He is Dharma Alex Belby, and he observes the reactions of werewolf bites. John leaned over and took a look. The man was in pain, and his wound was sealed with white cream and silver. Silver can't cure werewolf bites, but Bice-Yen provides enough nutrition for patients to endure the pain in the early stage. Dharma Alex Belby was taking notes. When he heard a voice, he turned his head to look. You are, that he thought it was a kid from somewhere, and immediately said impatiently, I'm not free right now, please leave. John smiled when he heard the words, John Wick, it's a pleasure to meet you Sir Dharma Alex Belby. John Wick? Dharma Alex Belby paused and looked at John in disbelief. Are you the student who wrote to me, that he'd thought he'd be a 7th grader, and being able to point out something he hadn't discovered must be gifted? I didn't expect to have talent, but it was too enchanting. Although John was much taller than his peers, he looked like he was in the 3rd or 4th grade. Forgive my blindness just now, Mr. Wick. Dharma Alex Belby's attitude changed, becoming extraordinarily enthusiastic. The other party invited John to visit his manor, and John naturally accepted. After observing the hapless wizard in front of him for a while, John walked out of the 2nd floor after meeting with Dharma Alex Belby for the next letter conversation. He saw a familiar figure in the hospital, and he asked in surprise, Neville. A lost Neville was walking in the corridor when he heard John's voice and looked over. John, are you sick? Why are you here? Neville was a little nervous. He was terrified of his best friend getting sick. John shook his head to indicate that he was fine, but Neville's presence made John very strange. What are you doing here? I'm here to visit my parents. Neville looked downcast, and John knew his parents must be ill. Now that they met, John and Neville went to the spell damage department on the 5th floor. Here, John saw Neville's parents, the excellent Auror couple. They were tortured by Death Eaters, and eventually became crazy, unable to even recognize their own children. Neville couldn't stop crying when he saw this scene. John sighed softly, and patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. Voldemort and his minions have done too many crimes. Finally they left the hospital. John said goodbye to Neville, and he saw Neville's grandmother waiting for his grandson there. The old man had a stern look, but he would wait outside for Neville to come out. John nodded at her, and Granny Neville nodded slightly. Leaving the hospital, John went back to prepare other things. He remembered Wolfsbane potion because it had appeared in Harry Potter's 3rd year, and it was still made by Snape. It seems that it has not been published yet, and he doesn't remember much about the details, but he vaguely remembers that the most important thing is aconitum. This thing is highly poisonous, and most people will not easily use it on people. A few days later, John sent his conjecture to Dharma Alex Belby by letter. And after a while, he received a reply. Success. Chapter 49 Wolfsbane Potion in Trading. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Inside Belby Manor, this is a building like the Roman Colosseum. A large solid iron cage was placed in the middle, and the moonlight squeezed out from the dark clouds bit by bit. Today is the full moon, and the man in the big iron cage is in extreme pain. He was twitching curled up in his cage, his body hair growing rapidly. Look at these ugly things, they are neither wolves nor men. Dharma Alex Belby held a gorgeous cane in his hand, and the automatic talking pen beside him was recording his every word and deed. The whole transformation process takes half a minute, and you will be able to see this great moment that is enough to be recorded in history. There was a hint of excitement in Alex Dharma's tone. The research and development of Wolfsbane potion will be a huge change. He no longer pursues wealth. As a master of potions, he is not short of money, and he pursues fame even more. If Wolfsbane potion is successful, he will at least get a 2nd-level medal. This is the glory of a wizard, but also the pursuit of a scholar. John was the first witness of this clinical experiment, so it can be seen that Dharma Alex has placed John in the same position. Using the highly poisonous Kamajasma aconitum as a formula is such a genius idea. All potion masters who have handled Kamajasma aconitum have been shy away from its toxicity from ancient times to the present. All that comes out of his haughty mouth is praise, which is a genius idea. The key depends on the dosage. After the experiment of making 2 werewolves paralyzed and 3 turned into vegetative states, the delicate balance is as elusive as the golden snitch. It was John who found this crucial point for him, otherwise the werewolf should have several corpses buried under the manor now. This is not very difficult for John. He has the sharpness of the tongue of a fire dragon, coupled with his sense of magic power. He can tell the amount of poison in a potion with his fingers. Half a minute passed, under the witness of 2 people. The man who was bitten by a werewolf for a year completely turned into a werewolf walking on 2 legs, but he was a little confused when he just became a werewolf. Dharma Alex tapped the iron cage with his cane, and said loudly, "Shelby, can you understand me?" That the werewolf was a little confused at first, but after a few minutes passed, his eyes became clear and did not turn into the turbid tyranny of a werewolf. He nodded, pointed to his mouth, and said a word with difficulty, "Yes." The Wolfsbane potion succeeded. Damo Alex couldn't help cheering, and John also smiled, but he still needs further confirmation. He came to the cage and said, "Your Excellency Dharma Alex Belby, please open the cage." "What?" Dharma Alex thought he had heard wrong. He looked at John in disbelief. "Are you kidding me? Even with Wolfsbane potion, we can't fully trust these lowly things." His words were filled with blatant disdain, which is the status quo of all werewolves. They are discriminated against by the entire wizarding world. Even if they don't become werewolves voluntarily, they are more victims. "We won't be successful until we thoroughly prove that werewolves can stay sane." John said firmly, "Open the cage. If you didn't fix the Wolfsbane potion for me, I would have thought you were crazy." Seeing his resolute attitude, Dharma Alex had no choice but to curse secretly and open the cage for him. His cane struck the ground, and the iron door of the cage was flung open. The werewolf pushed open the door and came out. Dharma Alex took out his wand and cursed vigilantly, "Go back, you bastard." John didn't retreat but advanced. He didn't hesitate in his steps, and his left hand was ready to draw out his wand at any time. He came in front of the werewolf, and while transforming into a werewolf, he also made the man taller. The hideous appearance made him look hideous at night. John opened his hands and said softly, "Shelby, let me see that you are really awake." Dharma Alex yelled directly, "This is crazy, you want to hug a werewolf?" Shelby also found it incredible when he heard the words. He approached John cautiously, and finally, with Damo Alex's horrified expression, he hugged John as if he was embracing a fragile artwork. "I have to say that the wolf fur is a bit prickly." John said something jokingly, and at the same time secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He is not willing to dedicate everything to scientific research, but wants to test whether werewolves can really maintain their sanity. The reason why werewolves were not accepted by wizards was because of the destruction and killing that their 6 relatives did not recognize after the full moon. If it is controllable, it is completely a super animagus with armor and meat stacked. If such a force can control the formation of a team, it will be a big killer. He looked at Dharma Alex, who was so surprised that he dropped his cane to the ground, and said with a chuckle, "Dharma Alex, we will be recorded in the history of magic. We changed a race. Glory." This is what Dharma Alex cares about the most, and he burst into laughter upon hearing this. John patted Shelby's arm. "There is no doubt that the sharp nails can easily tear open the throat. Shelby, maybe we can be friends. Thank you for your dedication to Wolfsbane." "It's my honor." Shelby has suffered discrimination since being bitten, and his former colleagues have also avoided him. In desperation, he chose to become an experimental subject. Although he has not fully recovered, preserving his sanity is already an excellent result. He is grateful to the 2 who developed the drug, especially John. In John's eyes, he didn't see the charity and contempt of Dharma Alex as if he looked at a monster, but he really treated patients seriously and treated a person's equality. He has experienced countless cold looks in a year, and sometimes a simple greeting can make a person die for you. Especially when John watched him turn into a werewolf, but dared to come up and hug him instead of pointing his wand at himself. The full moon continued, and the 2 continued to watch Shelby, until the moon in the sky disappeared. Shelby began to recover from the werewolf state, and gradually returned to his original appearance. Success. Shelby did not act irrationally for one night, which also declared the success of Wolfsbane. John clenched his fists, and Dharma Alex directly took off his clothes and ran naked in the manner to celebrate, bringing a suit of clothes to Shelby. John held out his hand to Shelby and said with a smile, "Are you interested in finding a job for yourself? 100 galleons a month." John needs to find a reliable bodyguard for his shop in Knockturn Alley, and it happens that Shelby is a very good candidate. Grey-blue eyes with deep eye sockets, and sunken cheeks give people a wolf-like feeling. Under his gaze, a sense of oppression-like scrutiny arises spontaneously. This has something to do with Shelby's previous occupation. He was an Auror, bitten by a werewolf while on a mission. He loses his job and wanders. The drastic changes in life leave the Auror emaciated. Hearing John's words, Shelby was in disbelief. "I want to be able to get this job. While the job doesn't pay as much as an Auror, it's a lot of money for a werewolf." He recognized John as the boss even more, and did not despise him because of his age. John stretched out his hand and said with a smile, "John Wick, but I hope you call me Johnny Silverhands when you get to the store. The guy watching the store is a thief. You can keep an eye on him by the way." Shelby shook that hand, a smile appeared on his gloomy face. "Tommy Shelby, I think that's what I'm good at." The two cooperated happily, and Dharma Alex on the other side also had a happy cooperation with John after returning from streaking. Although he really wanted to monopolize the credit, John's credit for it was too great. In this regard, John shook his head and refused, and he smiled and said, "Dharma Alex, if developed by one person, it can highlight hardships and legends. 2 people may get 2 second-level medals, but 1 person can get 1 class medal." Dharma Alex was moved. Who could refuse a first-class medal? He stared at John, wanting to know the conditions. "I want the monopoly right of Wolfsbane potion. In return, I'm willing to give you % of the share." In exchange for allowing Dharma Alex to enjoy exclusive glory, John wants to use Wolfsbane potion to develop and expand the store. Damo Alex refused. He has no desire for money, and his money will never be spent in several lifetimes. There is no need to share it. You know the formula of Wolfsbane potion. I will give it all to you. This makes John even more happy, and the master of potions must be rich. Although the money is not much in a short period of time, it will definitely be considerable in the future. Unexpectedly, Damo Alex didn't care about this, which made John really envious. In the end, the two reached an agreement. John obtained the monopoly rights of Wolfsbane potion, and Dharma Alex obtained the glory of research and development. With John's intervention, this Wolfsbane potion is much stronger. It can be said that it is the gospel of werewolves. Chapter 50 Dobby and Hitting the South Wall. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A powerful bodyguard was sent to Johnny Silverhand's store in Knockturn Alley. Mundungus didn't know the identity of the airborne Tommy Shelby, but from his respectful attitude towards Johnny Silverhand judging from it, it is likely to be a confidant. This made Mundungston, who was already a bit swollen and complacent, suddenly poured cold water on him. He thought that he was the indispensable one. Now it seems that he is just a pony of Lord Johnny, and for some reason, he has a sense of fear for this Shelby. It was as if he was being targeted by a passing Auror while he was stealing. With such a guy watching, he had to cheer up. It's so bad. As a new recruit, Tommy Shelby's salary is 100 galleons a month, plus John will supply him with Wolfsbane potion every month. He also met many werewolves during his year of wandering. John decided to let Tangmi recruit other werewolves when the shop was bigger. Being able to mix with the former Auror, the character will not be too bad. John still knows this very well. The Silverhand Johnny store opened a few days ago, although the business is not very good, but the daily income of 200 galleons is not a problem. After a while, when more people know about this place, the business will only grow bigger and bigger, especially after the Bodhidharma Alex first-class medal is issued. His reputation for Wolfsbane potion will be spread, allowing more werewolves to buy it. A common potion of Wolfsbane costs 30 galleons, and it allows you to suppress your bloodlust when you become a werewolf. The superior Wolfsbane elixir costs 80 galleons, and it allows you to recognize your loved ones and stay in one place when you're a werewolf. The top-level Wolfsbane potion is priced at 150 galleons. You just turned into an appearance. Why can't you use magic, and the consciousness still belongs to you? The 3 Wolfsbane potions not only meet the minimum needs of werewolves, but also can help werewolves get rid of the status quo of being discriminated against. The top-level ones are the most time-consuming, and it is still very troublesome to refine them that can be completely preserved as before the transformation. This is what John offered Shelby, and Shelby was willing to die for him. The start of school is getting closer. Harry's living at the Burrow had made John a loner. Apart from counting the golden galleons, he was giving away the golden galleons. Money is never enough to spend, alchemy is too expensive, but it went very well, and he carved a second rune into Ironwick's sword, creating a magic circuit for Ironwick. As long as the circuit is activated, the magic on the sword can be used without using John's magic power. Of course, the magic generated by these circuits will take time to reaccumulate after being released, and it is actually not very useful except to deal with emergencies. John practiced magic that day, and the transfiguration had never been upgraded, which gave John an urge to use any point to upgrade. Should I read more books on transfiguration? That he has been greedy for the dragon form for a long time, and it is estimated that it will not be able to open until the 4th level, so he has no choice but to let it go. Someone broke in. John frowned. The basement was set up with magical props for perception, which would give him an early warning if someone broke in. Pointing the wand at a corner of the basement, John said coldly, "Do you think I can't find you?" Protruding green eyes the size of tennis balls, and 2 bat-like ears that drooped back, John made a decisive move, and the transformation curse turned the desk in the corner into a strip of cloth to wrap the things that appeared tightly. House elf. After it was done, John was taken aback. "Ah! Shrieked the house elf, "Dobby has come to see John Wick, Harry Potter's friend." Dobby wanted to break free, but the cloth strips entangled him tightly, strangling him so much that his screams became muffled. "Dobby? The house elf?" John remembered Harry's complaints, and he said in a deep voice, "Who sent you here? Do you want to know Harry's whereabouts through me?" No, Dobby wants John Wick to protect Harry Potter." After saying this, Dobby realized that he was about to speak ill of his master. He wanted to punish himself, but he was firmly tied up. "I had no choice but to keep hitting the wall with the back of my head, cursing myself, bad Dobby, bad Dobby." "Stop." John had a headache, so he had no choice but to manipulate the cloth strips to tie up Dobby's head. By the way, without putting down the wand in his hand, John approached Dobby. His face became serious, and he asked, "You said Harry would be in danger. Why did you know?" When he asked this question, John saw Dobby's face full of fear, wanting to self-harm but unable to do so. He had a headache, and these house elves were overreacting, so he had to change the question. "What do you mean by danger?" "Conspiracy, a dangerous and terrifying conspiracy. The most terrifying thing will happen to Hogwarts." Dobby screamed, and John dispelled the spell, sending Dobby plopping to the ground. "Then why did you ask me to protect Harry again?" The wand was lowered, and John stared at the house elf who broke into the house. Dobby sniffled and said, "Dobby heard that John Wick is a powerful wizard who protected Harry Potter." I admit that I have done it to protect Harry, but it is too much for a powerful wizard." The corner of John's mouth twitched slightly. "Who spread the rumor? He was just a rookie with a 3rd-level magic power." Glancing at Dobby, he said helplessly, "If you really want to protect Harry, you should tell me the name of the master of the conspiracy." John could write to Dumbledore as long as he had a name, plus it was about Harry as the savior. With the white devil around, he didn't believe anyone could hurt Harry. "Dobby can't say, bad Dobby, bad Dobby." Dobby started to self-harm again, and John had to tie him up again. He couldn't fully believe Dobby's words. If Harry was really in danger, he would help him. "I will investigate the conspiracy, if it is true." Dobby was grateful, and John waved his hand. Meanwhile his eyes fell on Dobby, who looked pathetic and comical in his old pillowcase. "I have some old clothes. If you don't mind, you can wear them." John's words made Dobby scream. Dobby is so grateful to John Wick. He is as worthy of respect as Harry Potter, and the house elves are only free when their masters give them clothes to wear. He couldn't accept John's kindness, but raised John to the same height as the savior Harry, maybe a little shorter. Dobby snapped his fingers and disappeared with a thud. Able to cast spells without a staff. Staring at where Dobby left off, John cast a spell here. While Dobby was free in and out, it seems that the protection mechanism established by oneself is not enough. He decided to make more looking glasses to prevent similar things from happening. Time passed day by day. While Johnny Silverhand's store stabilized, it was time for John to go to school. 9-month one day, Watson took the child into King's Cross station early, and this time he deliberately slammed into the pillars of the platform. 9 3/4, it turned out, too, that he was not a wizard, at least before his head was knocked out with a big bag. He still felt that maybe Hogwarts just forgot to send a notice to him when he was a child. Mrs. Wick entertained guests in the beauty shop, and John had to watch his father hit the south wall with disgust. "Okay, Dad, it's time for me to go." Watson, who hit the south wall and looked back depressed, had no choice but to watch his son leave. He rubbed the big bump on his head, and then, bang. Oops. Ouch. Watson was stunned by the two screams, and the two little wizards looked at the impassable wall in confusion. They were dumbfounded. Harry asked puzzled, "Why can't you pass?" "I don't know, but we're going to miss the train." Ron didn't know either, but time waited for no one. They were extremely anxious, and the passage was closed and unable to pass, which also meant that they could not take the train to Hogwarts. Suddenly, Ron had an idea. "Car, we can drive to Hogwarts." That he remembered his family's flying car, and Harry still had some concerns, but he thought that if he was late and expelled from Hogwarts, that would be the worst. The two went ahead and put one hand on the window when they found the Weasley family's flying car and were about to start it. "Hey, I think you guys need help." Harry and Ron stared blankly at the man in the hat who had emerged. Watson Wake showed a confident smile. "Uncle, I was nicknamed the God of Canary Wharf."